All right, guys, welcome back. So we're going to continue on with part 2 of how to get hired on to the Honolulu Police Department. Okay, so my first video, if you watched, is about the exam. It's about the PRA, the Physical Readiness Assessment Test. Okay, so we talked about that a little bit. Now let's talk about what happens after you get the pass exam and you pass the PRA. Okay, so you're going to go through a series of things. I got my notes right here. Like I said, sometimes I like to ramble. So I just want to keep it in line, keep it in check so I don't keep going on a tangent that you guys don't want to hear. So the next step was what we got is PHS, right? The personal history statement. I think I talked about that a little bit in the last video, but I'll get a little bit more in depth about that, what is required, what they're looking for, what to expect on the PHS, okay? So personal history statement. So basically the PHS, right? The personal history sheet, and it's also fingerprinting. So you're just gonna give you a computer link you're gonna go to. You're gonna fill out the stuff online, personal history all the way back, and it even includes basically, let's say, family members, 10 to 12 personal references, and it can't be supervisors or anybody employed with the Honolulu Police Department, okay? So as I say these things, start thinking about who and what you want to represent you, because you got to remember the names, the references that you give are going to be people who are going to basically represent you, okay? So, and even like past jobs, so all previous supervisors, you're going to want to give information and give people, because the department's going to talk to these people, okay? So make sure you give the right people, supervisors, that are going to represent who you are, okay? So some of the things that are included on this personal history sheet is going to be all immediate family members, including ex-spouses and domestic partners, okay? So you're going to have to put ex-husbands, wives, ex-domestic partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, and stuff like that, because they will check. So make sure you put them down as well. You're going to have to come up with 10 to 12 personal references, okay? So they can't be previous supervisors of HPD or employees of HPD or family members of current HPD officers. Okay, so as we talk about this, start thinking about who you want to put down as these references, because you have to have 10 to 12. Some people that's a lot. Some people that's easy, and other people it might not be as easy. They might not really know 10 to 12 people that they can put down as a reference. But on that note as well, make sure you put down people that are going to represent you the way that you want to be represented through this hiring process. So kind of think about that, read between the lines if you need to with that. You need to put all previous supervisors, so any jobs you had, you're going to have to do some legwork. If you're a little bit older like myself, when I came in, I was 44, so I had a long history of working military and all that, civilian jobs, all that kind of stuff. You're going to have to look. You're going to have to dig through stuff to find supervisors' names and phone numbers, and just do the best that you can. And all previous landlords, okay? So obviously if you're an adult and you rented a place, apartment, house, or wherever you were at, make sure you have to put down those landlords, right? You're gonna have to, like I said, do some footwork and look for those paperwork and look for those contact numbers and emails and stuff and names for those landlords. Okay, now when it comes down to employment information since your first job, business name, accurate dates of employment, and positions last held, and duties. Okay, so like I said, if you're a little older, when I came in, I had to go way back to when I was like 13, 14, I first started working. I had to put down, the best I could. Do as much digging as you can, because that is part of the job as well as a police officer, is to just do a little footwork. You're gonna have to do investigation. You're gonna have to start digging and try to find this information. We have technology, we have the internet. Nowadays, it's really not that hard. So put down, your previous place, employment where you worked, all the way since your first job. You have to put names, phone numbers, the best you can. Residential history since the age of 15. So complete addresses with accurate dates of residency. So since the time you were 15, you're gonna have to put down. So if that means you have to contact your parents, get a hold of them. Obviously, they're gonna know that you're going through this. Hopefully they should know that you're going through this steps with HPD. But they're gonna have to, try to give you the best they can for residences and dates and time, where you lived, and landlords' names since you're the age of 15. So a lot of this is, they are gonna investigate. They are gonna go back and look in this kind of stuff. You're gonna be assigned an investigator, okay? And a lot of this also is just they want to see how much legwork and how much footwork you're going to do, to see how far you will deep and dive into this, to see how bad that you want this, all right? So you're going to come up with the information that you can. It's part of the job. All right, so you got background investigation and clarification review. So applicants who are successful will submit their PHS, will be assigned to one of the background investigators. Okay, guys, and something else that comes along with the personal history statement is that you're gonna have to get it notarized, right? So make sure you have in your mind where you're gonna get this notarized. A lot of banks do it. If you're still military or you have a retirement ID card, you have access to any installation. A lot of times there's places on there like at little mailbox places where you can get a notarization. So you're gonna have to get the stuff notarized, and you're also gonna get the fingerprints at the main station. They're gonna tell you to go down there so that the fingerprints will be taken care of by the department. But some of these documentations that we're gonna go over that you're gonna need to get notarized, okay? So, like I said, after all that, after your PHS, you're gonna get assigned a background investigator, okay? So some of the paperwork and documents you're gonna have to come up with are listed right here. So just keep this in the back of your mind. So when you're going through the process, you already have all this stuff ready to go. So you're not scrambling and looking around and going through all your files when it's time, to turn this stuff in. You already have it ready to go. So you're gonna have to have a valid current government driver's license, obviously, police department. You're gonna have to drive the vehicle, so you need a current Hawaii state driver's license. Proof of eligibility to possess a firearm. Okay, so US birth certificate, valid passport, certificate of naturalization, or valid legal permanent resident card. Okay, so make sure you have that stuff all lined up and ready to go. You're gonna need a high school diploma or equivalent, okay? So if you do not have an original high school diploma, you will need to provide one of the following. So if you can't find yours, if it's lost or whatever, you're gonna have to provide a letter of graduation from the student's register office. So if you went here locally on Oahu, you're gonna have to go down to the registrar's office. You're just gonna have to tell them what you need and show them. They're gonna have to give you a letter of graduation. So when you graduated, the credits and everything like that. College diploma you need, or college transcripts, unofficial. So if you do have a college degree, you don't need it to become a police officer, but you do need a high school diploma or equivalent, like a GED. But if any of these things are lost, go ahead and start now, because sometimes these things can take weeks to get. All right, especially at college, if you went on the mainland, off island, you went to a college, and you want to submit that, your college, your diploma with your packet, but you can't find your diploma for whatever reason, go ahead and contact your college and get just to get a transcript of your graduation date and all the credits that you accomplished. You're also going to need state and federal taxes from the previous year. So if you're applying for 2026, you're going to need to provide the state and federal taxes from 2025. W-2s from previous years as well, okay? So you're going to need to also provide W-2s. So anything you worked up to this point, you're going to have to provide those W-2s. So if you can't find that stuff, go ahead and start getting on that now and have all this stuff ready to go. So like I said, you're not scrambling last minute, because it can be stressful, because all this is going to happen fast paced. It takes 4 to 6 months, but sometimes it's just such a fast pace that, you might get overwhelmed. So make sure you have all this stuff. And if you're a former military, if you're retired or you got out of the military, ETS, make sure you have your DD-214, all right? These are the paperwork that your background investigator is going to require. Once you pass all that and everything's good with that, you're going to get a conditional offer of employment, okay? And then they're going to schedule the next series of stuff that you need to do. So the next thing is going to be the polygraph, right? The lie detector. You're going to take that down at the main station or at the hale in town. That's where I took it. They could have it somewhere else. Expect to be about 2 to 4 hours. Now, it just depends on whoever's giving you the exam. When I went through, bro, I was there like 7 to 8 hours. The actual exam itself, the polygraph, took maybe 15 to 20 minutes. But you're going to go over your PHS. You're going to go over your personal history sheet and all that kind of stuff, right? The detective's going to talk to you. You're going to go over pretty much question for question. And that's why it's very important to answer everything truthfully, because you're going to go over it again. And it's almost like an interrogation. I'm not going to lie. They're going to see if you can stick to your story, see if you're inconsistent. If you answer truthfully, you don't have to worry about that stuff. So expect to be there 2 to 4 hours for that. Like I said, I was there like 7 to 8 hours and I was cooked afterwards, but got through it, okay? After that, you're going to have a psychological exam. Now, this isn't going to be the same day. They're going to schedule all these things, a week out, 2 weeks out, whatever. You're going to have a psychological exam. So you'll be scheduled to take a psychological exam. Will last approximately 3 to 7 hours. So most of these things, just expect from 2 to 7 hours, most of these appointments you're going to have. So make sure you take the time off of work or whatever you need for that. After the psychological exam, you're going to have a psychological interview, all right? So it's going to be a psychological exam. Will be scheduled with an interview with a licensed police psychologist to discuss the results of the psychological exam. Be truthful. I can't stress that enough. Just make sure you're truthful all the way from the beginning to the end. After you pass that, you're going to get assigned for a medical exam. That's just a basic physical. It's going to be through the city and county. It's like, your hearing, your eyes, blood pressure, things like that, all right? They're just a basic physical. If you've ever had one, it's just a basic physical. After all that, so let's say you're successful and you pass everything up to that point, you get a final offer of employment after all that. Once you get that final offer of employment, then you're going to get a class date. You should get a class date, if I remember correctly. So you're going to get a start date for the academy. You're going to get a class number. Mine was 197, and I started July 20th, 2020. All right, so you're going to get that. Now, later on, other videos, we're going to talk about leading up to that, what you need to get and have to go into the academy, because you're going to have to buy certain kind of uniforms. There's a certain place that you have to buy them from. If it's still same location, we'll go over that. I'll find out for you. But you know, the little baby powder blue shirts and black pants, there's a certain place you have to get that stuff, and you're going to have to bring in the paperwork. But we'll go over that in the next video. And we'll also go over more of just the day-to-day stuff, what to expect while you first make it to the academy and you're in there. Now, overall, the whole process, how long will it take? I'm just going to read it straight from the website. The entire process can be completed in as little as 2 to 4 months. Okay, so not really 4 to 6, but it can be 2 to 4 months. I think they're streamlining this a little faster now because we are about 460 to 500 short in officers, sworn officers. So it's a good time to come on because we're extremely short and we need people. So 2 to 4 months, as long as the applicant is prepared and has provided all required documents. So like I said, every time you can't find something and then you need to contact the mainland and stuff gets mailed out here, it can prolong the process in your hiring. So if you have everything ready to go, you can get in faster and start your journey. So make sure, like I told you, it's important to get all that stuff ready to go so you're not searching for it last minute. That's pretty much it for this. So we talked about the exam, the first one. We talked about the physical readiness assessment. And then this time we talked about all the different interviews and phases you're gonna have to go through to get hired on to get that final offer of employment. Now also your investigator, just a side note, they are going to check. They're gonna go to your house, they're gonna check with your neighbors, and they're gonna talk to them to see what kind of person you are. They did that for me, and I lived on a military base. They came on base, they checked it all out. My neighbors told me, hey, this detective came around, was asking about you. So make sure you're cool with your neighbors, all right? Don't be a dummy and act stupid so your neighbors don't like you, because all this can reflect and all this can bite you in the butt. So make sure you're cool with your neighbors. Make sure you just let everybody know too. There's no harm in letting everybody know that there might be an investigator coming around, just asking questions about me. Is what it is. Whether they like you or not, that's on them to determine, you know, your future basically. So if you have anything else, if you have any more comments, just leave it down below. I'm here. We're going to walk through the whole process. And like I said, my next video, we're going to talk about just getting into the academy, what to expect on the day-to-day, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, that pretty much sums it up for this time. And then just stay tuned for my next video. So until then, go and smash all the buttons. I really appreciate it. And until next time, you guys, be safe and aloha.